First of all, mostly I don't see myself as a success. You know,
Right,
everyone
okay.
suffers from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Sort of side project of the moment is we win a gold medal at the Olympics in Paris 2024.
Welcome to Brains Behind Brands. I'm Stuart Bramley, your host on this podcast, where we unravel the secrets of business success. Join us on a journey through the minds of successful entrepreneurs and business owners who will share their stories over triumph and adversity, strategies and lessons learned along the way. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or just curious about what it takes to succeed in today's competitive world, our podcast is the perfect place to gain knowledge and insights. Join us on this exciting journey to discover the secrets of success with Brains Behind Brands. To help this podcast grow, please like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get to the show. So, Charlie, welcome to the podcast, Brains Behind Brands. I'm really pleased to have you on. I would just like to kind of start with, for the viewers, you know, what have you been up to lately? What's been going on in your world?
So should I explain a bit about me?
Yes, that would be great, yeah.
I run the centre of the world office complex that we're in,
Yes,
which is
yeah.
a family business, and I'm the fourth generation in that.
Oh, wow.
Holt's Yard and the Holt's Yard Hubs
Yeah.
chain that we're dreaming of expanding with a couple of sites in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And but I've always been entrepreneurial. I think I started with the family business thinking it was all about to go bust and that I had to kind of go and make some money and make a business. And so I've somehow in my blood always had starting up businesses and things like that. And I've got a couple of businesses. I've got a marketing background, and I had a sort of long career in marketing and building marketing agencies.
Yeah.
And then I set up a recruitment business with some friends and contacts in central London, which has been growing for 10, 12 years. Set up a tech business where I supported a guy that I met who we had twins in the same class in school when they started. They've now left school, so that's like 14 years ago. And I'm always looking at the new thing. What's going to fuck us up? So we better think of the future before it hits us smack in the chops. And I was just chatting to you before. My sort of side project of the moment is, can we win a gold medal at the Olympics in Paris 2024?
Yes.
And it's a sort of example of the kind of way I think, which is I saw this lad, Adam Olare, on LinkedIn, and he's based a couple of miles from here. I'm very keen on building the capacity for our region, and because the region has had many years of decline post Second World War, and with some of the industries here being a bit rusty and no longer relevant, and the tide water going out, and I feel like we should help boost it. And Adam is a smashing guy, and he is Geordie, brought up here, a local, but he came over from Nigeria when he was 6, came to the Northeast when he was 11. His dad's a taxi driver around the doors. Yeah. And he needs, well, how can we get more certainty that Adam can win a medal? Yeah. There are 12 people in the heavyweight category. He is 88 kilos. Which is a cruiserweight, but in the Olympics, a number of the men's medals have been taken out to make way for women, which is a great, growth in that sport. But he won the All Africa medal at heavyweight, which is 92 kilos. Wow. And so I met him. I said, what can I do? Fantastic story. We've got to have another Geordie Gold. Yeah. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, because if you've got a load of people helping out, that but what can I do? And we sort of found that was quite a lot we could do. And so step one was find a dream team of people who I could enthuse to get involved. And we've had a load of people helping us along the way. A friend of mine who I'd never worked with, but I've always really, really liked, social-wise, a guy called Rhys Donovan, had been the chief executive of a stock market listed business a tech business in Glasgow, and he had finished that. He was kind of resting, looking for his next gig, and so I was like, and he was South African, so I'm like, African, I know Nigeria and South Africa are miles apart, and probably but he had a bit of time, and he's come on board, and we've got completely fired up. Another pal of mine, Chris Clark, who's a comms and marketing guy, he's helped with that. We've got a website and
so do you feel like, obviously you've had such a successful career, and and you've provided a lot to the region, which we can go into a little bit later on. Obviously you ran for mayor in 2019, which that's an amazing thing in itself. And just quickly before we dive back into the show, I just want to take a moment to talk about something crucial for any brand looking to grow in today's digital landscape. This series is sponsored by Mira Marketing, a specialist marketing agency that's changing the game for brands around the world. What sets Mira apart is they take time to fully understand your brand's goals and needs, ensuring they analyze all the data to provide the best possible solution to increase your sales and your return on investment. So if you're looking for marketing support, head over to miramarketing.co.uk. Now let's get back to the show. I feel like as you've become more successful and you've got towards that journey of going from the start all the way through that, you want to provide what maybe you once didn't have to people in the region, to kind of really bring a lot to this area, or where does that like passion and fire come from? Because you've got...
I first of all, mostly I don't see myself as a success. Everyone suffers from imposter syndrome. Everyone looks up. There's a bigger boat. How do I get a bigger boat? More often than, gosh, this is where I've got to. And many's the day I'm like, this could all go to shit. And some of my, therapy and management coaching has been to leave behind some of those some of those crashing disasters, which maybe make me a worse manager.
Right. Okay.
If I'm always worrying it's going to crumble or it's going to crash, that's maybe a hard place to be as a leader. Let the team do stuff. But maybe they'd feel that suddenly I'm going to whip in and go, you've done it all wrong. No, give me the train set back. I'm going to do it this way. And that isn't a great place to be if you're trying to grow people. So firstly, maybe don't feel like I'm still energized because I'm not quite there. And there's still more to give, and I want to land X, Y, and Z, and then maybe I'll the journey is the reward.
I mean, that's
and many people get somewhere where they think it's going to be brill, and then it's like, oh, what am I going to do? And I suppose that working with Adam and working on the frontier is a way of keeping me young and keeping me energized. There's like those challenges. How do you bash through them? Maybe that's a bad thing, a good thing. I enjoy that, but maybe it's a bad thing for your career journey that you're always kind of going back and going, no, I'll do that lot again.
And trying to give more all the time.
I don't know whether I'm being coherent here, but I'm learning also to try and be a chairman rather than a chief executive.
Right. Okay.
Which is to work with the leadership team, not doing their job, but energizing and giving the right kind of challenge so they feel they can be free to expand rather than thinking, oh, he's going to land and do it. So
you're always kind of reevaluating what you've done and you're learning and trying to gain more knowledge so you can give back. I mean, there's a commonality within that where you're always obviously trying to better yourself, better the businesses around you, better the region, better people, give opportunities. So it's quite nice to be very self-aware. And to be able to kind of move forward in that way. To kind of go back a little bit was to get into business and to be able to have the ability to give opportunities to these people. Was it always something which you found was in you, or was it kind of were you brought up to want to kind of go down that entrepreneurial journey? Is that something which you had from being young, or is it something that you kind of once you got through school, it just, actually, I'm going to go into the family business, or was it already kind of embedded as you were growing up?
I think that was a family value, one of the values of our family, that, you can make money. One can make money, but if all you do is make money, you can be quite boring.
Yeah.
And there are people who we all may know who've been good at making money, but if you only do that in the world, then that's...
Can't take it with you.
Yeah, can't take it with you. And, so it's enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
And people, and it is one of the insights. I don't know whether you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a psychology thing. First you need shelter, then you need heat, then you need food. And in your journey to being adult, being satisfied, finding your own path, the pinnacle of that is self-actualization.
Right.
Slightly weird term, but that's finding yourself.
Yeah.
And it is lovely to be on a journey leading people to that, so having money is part of that journey, having stability. But, you may have met people whose families have given them money, but it's actually quite dissatisfying. And what you benefit from is having people having the tools to self-actualize, find themselves, find their own path, find their own traction in life.
So do you think that's really important for someone that's you've got their own business? People who will listen to this will be small business owners, SMEs. It could be corporate. But do you feel like they should have at least some sort of passion, purpose, and drive to then not always think, I just want to make money. I just want to make money. I'm in it because. Do you feel like the success will come the more you've got a need out of it, something that you want to create? It's not just I'm just after money.
I think most people who start a business are inner directed.
Yeah.
They are driven to want to do stuff. And I'm a firm believer that having your own business gives you a control that allows you personally to grow and for you to create a culture in a business so that people can grow. Yeah. And owning and driving is one aspect of that, but helping people on their journey to manage. And I'm proud of working with a number of people who've then gone on and set up their own businesses. And I never like the word small because it sounds a bit unfair. Yeah. Because the size doesn't matter. Yeah. And it's about that freedom, I think, that you can get in having a good business. Yeah. And that you can give that freedom to lots of people. And whether you own a share of it, and it's been harder in this family property business to incentivize people with shares. Yeah. But in the tech business, I've been growing Opencast. Yeah, we've got it so that everybody has shares. Oh wow! And that's a very different way of sort of driving growth and motivations. Yeah.
So if you go back to at the start you were mentioning the things you've been involved in, I'm really intrigued. Obviously, agency owner myself. Yes. That's something which I'm on that journey. It is a roller coaster. And a fantastic one at that. Learning a lot of lessons and a lot of value. When was your first agency, was that your kind of eye-opener into the world of business, or was there a few before that? Was that your first business, or did you have a few?
Well, I've always had things going on.
Yeah.
Whether that were football stickers, little giveaway things in the playground, or going up to my parents had a summer house on the coast, and we'd get all of the cousins to go and pick the field mushrooms and have a stall by the side of the road.
Entrepreneurial mind, does it?
So I went when I was before I went to uni. I went and did a ski season. I just got a train ticket and knocked the doors in this ski resort in Switzerland, and I got that job as a barman, and then met the chalet girls, and they said, "Oh, we've got budget. If it snows, we actually don't have to go and clear the path, so it's 30 quid a time. So every time it snowed, I used to look out the window at 6 o'clock in the morning, go back to sleep. If it snowed, it was 30 quid. If it snowed twice in the week, that was 60 quid. And I don't know, where I got that. At this bar that I used to work, the ski lessons. You got a card, and you got 6 things with the perforated tickets on this card, and you rip them off, and it was whatever it was, 60 Swiss francs for that. And people would say, "Oh, can we tip you at the end?" And I said, "Just give us your spare tickets." And I had a market in those tickets.
No way.
Because you had to do, it was 60 quid for 60 quid, 60 francs for 5 lessons. But I had the tickets, so I could it's 15 quid for those, So
you're always finding a way.
Yeah, I don't know that's the way my mind works,
That's fascinating.
This week, Hoult's Yard, which is a bit of a sort of, we were trying to make it, and it has become a bit of a sort of iconic place, address in the Northeast. Mm-hmm. The last couple of weeks, we had some guys who are doing a reboot of each city's Monopoly board.
Oh, wow, really?
And they pitched the marketing manager, Louise, for Hoult's Yard to be one of the properties. And we were like, what? How brilliant is that? How exciting? Well. How expensive is it? And there were 3 different deals.
Yeah.
The first one was, and they were obviously trying to get as much money as possible.
Yeah.
Trying to make it sound cheap. And it was like, you get 3 sets of the Monopoly board. You get your own place in this 3 sets of hospitality hotels section, because they've got they've got the 3 businesses sewn up, and it was $3,000 a year for 3 years. Right, so it was basically it was $9,000.
Yeah, and
then that was bronze. Silver was $5,000 a year, 10 things on the board, 10 sets of it all.
Yeah,
and gold was a visit from Mr. Monopoly, which is some kind of, costume guy, which we were loving that.
Yeah.
And 12 copies of the board.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, we had a debate internally about the negotiations of it all. And I'd done in my marketing world, I've done a load of media buying, which is absolutely, which is dealing with money the whole time.
Yeah.
And how much is it for that slot in that place? And we got them down to, I was like, we don't really want to spend that much. We haven't got $9,000 for even the bronze version, but we've got loads of people who like the Monopoly boards. So we ended up with the whole thing for $5,000, including the 12 sets of the boards. And Mr. Monopoly, who's going to come and visit, which is going to be one of those exciting days of our life in Hoult's Yard. With photos. And I said, to soften the blow, we'll buy 100 sets because we can give them to all of our customers or my, cousins and things, because it would be quite a nice thing,
That would be really nice.
And they are 30 quid. So they've ended up with
great deal,
$8,000, but we've ended up with basically much.
Yeah, the sales.
It was a win-win. And so that was just the way that my brain has worked, which is there are many sets of things that they're trying to do. Because they said, we've got, you've got to hurry because we're closing the deals this week. I'm like, no, that's a win for us because they're really desperate to get us signed up. And if we're biting, that means they can get a deal with us rather than going out some, So, and maybe it was because with my many cousins, we used to play Monopoly all the time.
So you learn the game just while they sell you the game. So I'll play the game back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. So would you feel like because I talked to quite a few business owners, and one of the common things I find is within an entrepreneur, there's this creative spark a lot of the time because the visionaries, they see opportunity, they see a dream, and they kind of, they believe that that's the route they want to go down, and then they end up executing it. Certainly for me, starting an agency at Mira, when you went on to to start your first media agency in London, was that the same thing where you just had this, you were very creative and you had this ideas all the time, and you kind of thought, agencies for me, this, because you've worked, I looked back at some of the brands,
ups and downs of my career,
but going back to that, to turn that business from 4 to 400.
Yes,
that
group.
It's a group, and you've done it similarly with Opencast recently.
Yes,
that's in itself something that is quite aspirational, personally, as well as to a lot of people that I'll be listening.
Yeah,
we all would dream of getting to that point. Where did that agency world start? Was it just a case of, that's the route I want to go down, so I'm going to set up in London, we're going to go for it, we're going to kick down some doors like you did when you went skiing from a young age, and you've from speaking there, you've had these creative ideas from a kid. It all links, and people, unless people reflect and are self-aware, it's really hard to look back on your journey. But do you feel like that's played a massive part in when?
I think I set up in marketing. I got a job in marketing in 1992 when I finished at uni, and I got a job as a journalist.
Right.
And
okay.
that was I'm like, there's no money in this. It's quite hard work, and everyone's a bit chippy, and I could see other people were better at it and more motivated, and I was probably thinking about money side of things. So I got a job moving from English literature degree, journalism MA, some journalism work, and then seeing this kind of comms world.
Right.
For some reason, I always thought about, somebody said marketing communications, and I'm interested in marketing communications, and I was like, oh, that sounds something like I could do, because I like words and I like writing, but I didn't really understand it.
Right.
And then I got this job the only job I could find, or the only job I landed, was in a growing company which was called Text 100.
Right. Okay.
And they were, and I think still are, the PR company for Microsoft.
Wow.
And I was like employee number 80 in London.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I kind of caught the
wave,
tech wave.
Yeah.
And that is a good place to be in a growth market. Yeah. Where there were more and more tech things happening. Yeah. And I could see back then, it was every year there was a new thing, and then that wave, everyone caught it. And I worked with really good bosses there. Right. And I think that, people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. Oh. If you're a good boss, people will stick with you, because you can kind of create that team spirit, you can create that sense of fun, you can create that sense of challenge to stretch people back to the self-actualizing point. Yeah. And so I enjoyed that. Then I enjoyed being a manager of other talent coming through, because when it's high growth, you get a lot moved up quite quickly, and you get quite a lot of responsibility. Yeah. And so I set up my own agency. Wow. And we started hiring people, and then getting more clients in the tech world. Yeah. Loads of people venture backed. Mm-hmm. And so did I have a vision for it? Not really. I think at that stage, it was like that concept of when you're climbing a mountain, you can sort of see there's a peak there, and you walk, and then you get there and you see, there's another peak. Yeah. If you've ever climbed Cheviot, it's like that the whole time, because it's really, really long and slow. And so, then there's another one, then there's another one. So at that stage, it was exciting and new. It was like, whoa, there's a new one. Oh, there's a new thing. There's a new challenge. Yeah. And I suppose now I can see from a bit more high perspective, going back, and maybe I'm rerunning it, trying to do it better. Right. Okay. Trying to do best
from what you've learned.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah. And
but for me, as an entrepreneur, the energy I get is from that growth journey. It sort of could be a chain of fish and chip shops, but it doesn't really matter for me. And and some people, feel they want to be in very sort of sexy consumer brands, Nike or whatever, end clothing, and they probably get a lot of applicants because people understand that and they can read it in their daily life.
Yeah.
A lot of the same challenges are true if you're making oil rig maintenance, oil, lubricant, or whatever it is, cement.
Yeah.
And I'm resolved, and I enjoy that journey, whichever field it is.
And that journey's led you back to Newcastle, and
I got fired.
Oops.
So maybe my ideas weren't that good. Maybe I built this business. We got about 25 million in venture support.
Wow.
Like 16 million in venture capital, private equity.
Yeah.
And then the rest, 8 or 9 million in bank debt.
Wow.
And growing that marketing business, the credit crunch happened. All the banks lost a load of money, and it was a shock to the finance system, and it was a bit of a basically marketing hit a brick wall, because all the companies who were sort of fighting for survival were like, oh well, we can use that website for another couple of years. We don't need any more brochures. We don't need any marketing events. We don't need to change anything, so we can dead stop on it.
Yeah.
And the backers of that business were like, well, what are we going to do? We need to completely change our, Charlie was the guy, the manager who was building it up, going and chatting to businesses to make them join this vision of a group. We need somebody who's more defense player rather than offense player, and who will like squeeze the costs out of the business and make it through survival. And so they like put my stuff in a bin bag and told me to go. So I was a bit cross about that, but came back to the northeast there, and I'm hugely lucky that my family had this business, and there was no one else around. So like, would you like to take it on?
You thought,
well, I did. Yeah. So
why not? Let's go.
Yeah. And so I've, the interesting thing about family business is when you're a manager of your own business, you can curate the succession because you choose who they are. In families, as you're about to find out in 10 weeks when your first child is born, they don't do what you're told. They don't do what you think. Sometimes they do deliberately the opposite thing because you're doing this, so they'll do something else. Yeah. And so my dad had this business that he had grown, and he only had one son. My two sisters were doing other stuff. And it was like, in his mind, I really want the family dynasty to continue in his grand thinking or whatever. And I said, oh, well, eventually, Dad, I'll take it on. And he's like, well, you'll be doing this. And I'm like, no, we'll be doing that. Yeah. He went on holiday and I soundproofed a warehouse for gigs.
Really? Wow.
And so we did, animated things and in a very different way to his.
Because you had there was a music venue that was on here. I remember was when I was in my younger days.
I used to run Shindig nights here, and a load of other stuff. We had Radio 4 here doing, recording a radio show. We had ballet, we had fundraising things. That venue is now Tap Yard.
Right, okay,
so that roof is like 6 skins of plasterboard. So it's completely soundproof.
The soundproof.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. You've took on this project. This is the way I wanted to go. Actually, no, I think it should go this way. And you've put your bit of creative flair and your energy and your entrepreneurial kind of mindset, and just completely spun it on its head and went gigs, radio, all these different things, which comes and ties back into your marketing world and journey. You've reflected on what you've done, and then you've come to make something better through kind of your learning. So it's very, very interesting.
And it was a branding project. To a large extent. And what we do in our city is quite different, because I'm not by origin a property person. Yeah. And I'm like, we're trying to rent these rooms out. We've got 150, 200 rooms or whatever. And they're quirky and interesting, but we're not the only people who've got red brick walls in the Toon.
Yeah.
But much of the marketing still is, we've got a room. It is 20 foot by 8 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to rent it?
Mm-hmm.
And we do product marketing.
Mm-hmm.
This is a room. It will fit 9 desks in.
Yeah.
And this is the price per desk.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done a whole load of thinking around how our customers actually buy it.
Proposition.
Because most of them don't know what 20 foot by 8 foot is conceptually, but they can get their head around 6 desks.
Yeah.
But we still don't market around that either. We market around, we've got this site, we've got these amazing companies doing amazing things. Come and join a community.
Yeah, I mean, Mira Marketing's been here for 3 years.
Yes.
Prior to that, so we've moved, I think, 3 or 4 times as we've expanded. So you've got the ability to move into different space, which we've done. We started in the small glass offices down the bottom. Then we went along the corridor. Then we went upstairs. Now we've got 2 offices here, and the ability to move around. And you've created, through your marketing experience, your brand, and like a village, a creative hub. You've got, a brewery, you've got cafes, you've got donut shops, you've got food, burgers, you've got, like the Tap Yard, which is doing the music events again, and stuff like that.
So that was to some extent curated, because we get a lot of inquiries because we're quite big and known, and we have space. And we're very approachable, and we're on the social media talking about it, and we, and so when somebody moves in, we do a press release. It's amazing. This new company's come in. They've obviously expanded and stuck their neck out to come here. How cool are they? Yeah. Not how cool are we?
Yeah.
I'm not a wearer of the Stone Island T-shirt or even the Stone Island badge, because I'm like, understate me, but say something interesting about stuff, and I think that hopefully it has worked.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of you're pushing that brands there, using your brand, but like you say, it's that. Once again, it's so interesting because I always try to look at the picture, like your whole journey is all feeding energy into each part of it. So you're kind of, these brands have moved in, I've given back again because I really want them to kind of be out there and be known within Newcastle, push them out, get them seen within my network. And, that's something which seems to keep staying with you.
Yes. There, I mean, I was there at the start of the internet.
Yeah.
I was there before Windows, and it was a green screen with letters on it. But there is when the growth of Facebook started, there were stories about how many friends do you need? It is not possible to have more than 30 friends in life. Yeah. No one ever talks about only having 30 friends on Facebook now, because everyone's thousands. And a really interesting academic theory is the strength of weak ties, that we are more likely to get some energy going in a new push because we never work together. Yeah. Whereas you and your mates, me and my mates in the pub, we've always had these things like that, and we've had a bit of a go. We know what each other does, and we haven't done anything new to break out because we kind of know what we'll all do. Yeah. Whereas we're talking and we're already sparking off Howard podcasts, and then it's the weak ties that stretch your thinking, that get you into new stuff. And that's what we've got here, is a bunch of weak ties that will create new avenues and new sparks and new innovation.
Relationships and innovation, totally right. I mean, as an agency ourselves, we've worked with a few businesses on here. We'll continue to work with, like Terry de Havilland downstairs. We do Serios Group, which is up the road. So, you're totally right. The ability to connect and to provide opportunities is there, which is really good. If you are just getting an office in the middle of town and its own building without anyone around, them connections aren't going to be there. So there is that nice.
Yeah, there's the overlay of those things where you can pick a few of the ties. Yeah, you don't have to pick all the ties. Yeah, exactly. But the fact that there are a few ties, and was a sort of fascination for me coming back from 20 years working in London, where it's very, very big, and therefore there isn't a lot of connection energy. You have to manage that, and you can end up, if you're a journalist, you only hang out with journalists. It's so hard to live there. All you can do is play football once a week. So you've got your football mates and your work sector mates. Whereas up here, you can have pick a bit, family or theatre or sport, and you can do a few of those things. And we have that here, that because it's a small town, and we've got 700 or 800 people working here. You probably know one or two people from socially who've worked here or who are working here. But then you'll have the sector piece, and then the randomness of they're not your sector. And so I think that's
I think, I mean, I've never worked in London. I've worked in other areas. I've travelled up to Edinburgh and been around the world, like visiting Under Armour and some big brands. And I feel like in Newcastle there is that community. You do seem to, someone knows someone who knows someone, and you can build them connections. And some of the big brands that have come through Newcastle, likes of Sage, which I know Opencast have worked with. Them opportunities are there. And I think it is something, when you were mentioning of providing, or at least trying to connect a few of the dots to bring more to Newcastle. It's really interesting.
But the ability to see the dots in a small place, our microscope, whether it's this workplace or this city, which is Goldilocks city, not too big, not too small. The patterns you can see here, you can then learn it here and go elsewhere. And I love stories, and I love to see Geordie made good stories. People who've been here, seen how it works, and then been able to use that mindset to work really, really far. And there are many examples of that, and we see them because they're our homegrown, heroes. And I think we do that hero recognition really well because we're pretty big, but we're also self-conscious from that dip in history after the Second World War when all the jobs went. But I've been reflecting on that because I was speaking to some people in Cornwall, and we always think, we're in the north, it's a bit miserable, the weather's not great, and we've had loads of joblessness. But actually, if you're in Truro, which is a small town on the end of the Cornish Peninsula, it's probably a lot more. The growth mindset isn't there. We've got some hero stories. People can make it happen. And I suppose we talked a bit about running for mayor and trying to do regional regeneration because it's a sort of fascination. How do you have a fun life in a city? How do you get buzz? I've got this business park, and we've been able to play some of that. That's what made me think, maybe it'd be interesting to be the mayor. And then there's a bigger terrain.
What was that journey like? I mean, there's not every day, if someone will be listening to this and going, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, and then I'm going to decide to run for mayor. How did that, where did that come? I know you just mentioned, a few little factors there. What was that journey like?
Well, firstly, you've got to have enough stability in the business side to think, I'll go and leave that for a bit and do something else. From a social conscience perspective, you also think, well, one of the things that does my nut more than anything else is badly spent money. And governments have a lot of money and spend, is it wasted? A lot of it is wasted. Probably you can't help that because they're trying to fix things that no one else is fixing that are really hard. Poverty, education, health, roads,
potholes,
parking, and they're things that people compete on. I want that parking space. No, you can't have that parking space. And so it takes a certain mindset to think that you can have a go.
Yeah.
And you have to have some inner confidence.
Definitely.
Lots of people I have met before, during, after, think they've got better ideas of how they can fix stuff. And I just thought, well, volunteer on the field. I've had a sense of privilege and luck in life, and maybe you should use your gifts as well you can for other people. I heard Melinda Gates saying that of her, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that she was a mother of 2 daughters, and as a role model, she felt it was really important that it said the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, so that her daughters didn't think, oh, it's all dad's money and he's doing he's made it all happen. So we as daughters, and our path is going to be subservient to dad or men. Right. And so she said, I've had gift, position, and I should use that. And you see that in her. And she's, a public figure in podcasting in her own right and shining spotlights on things. And so it was that endeavour, which was interesting sort of job terrain. And then there was also the marketing project of brand Charlie, and, the fun of what will the URL be? and I I don't know if you're in marketing, you probably do the same. Get on the 123 reg and go, is that available? Is that available? Oh no, but how about that? I think I've done that so many times. I've spent so much money on URLs that I've never used that I go, oh, that's great. I'll go back to, if it is still available, I'll buy that. But I did buy Choose Charlie. Choose Charlie. And then I thought, no, everyone's going to think I'm a complete cokehead. So so step one of all of that was, it was vote Hoult, which has got there's some kind of half rhyme in vote Hoult. And that was one of the bases of the campaign. The other part, talking about elections in the UK, there are limits to election expenses because the UK has decided we don't want to be like the arms race for money that the American presidential and all of their elections, you're allowed to sort of fundraise and then put a load of money into the situation. So the electorate for the mayor of Newcastle and the North of Tyne combined authority had 600,000 voters. And the marketing budget of that, the allowable electoral expenses in the 5 weeks before the election was £40,000, including VAT.
Really? Oh my gosh.
And so it's a creative marketing challenge. What can you get volunteers to do? Because you don't have much money. So I created a very cheap leaflet, because I knew from my marketing experience that if you use newsprint, so we actually used a newspaper printer who had, because it was like £3,000 for maybe £6,000, I can't remember, quite for 500,000 leaflets.
Wow.
Because they press the button,
boom,
and it's like done. And whereas if you're doing digital printing or small run, brochures, and one of the reasons to go with the Conservative Party, an established party, was they have a network of people. Right, okay. And they all very supportive of their candidates, and there are often other elections going on. So they know the different houses, the streets that are more likely to be Conservative voters than non-voters or opposition voters. Yeah. And so I had all these leaflets, and we had the support of these teams, and went and leafleted everywhere. They all complained because my leaflets were made of newspaper that it was 4 sides. It was a very small leaflet, and getting it through a letterbox, floppy paper. Some of them are real experts. They have gloves because you get rash from the letterbox,
Yeah.
flap rash it's called. They have gloves, or they have rulers to go in with it, and mine didn't even roll up very well to spear through.
Just trying to get through.
Yeah. So you learn all these things from doing elections.
Yeah.
And then there was the social media side of, and I worked with an agency, and they had done a load of consumer sort of TikTok-y type stuff.
Right,
and I was thinking, I'm going to talk about my policies, and they were like, no, you can only have 20 seconds. It's got to be done in 20 seconds. And I managed to get them to 40 seconds on Facebook. It's the journey of learning stuff, and the more you learn, that aspect I can use somewhere else.
Yeah.
And with it being me, vote Hoult, it was really interesting doing, I think we maybe done 15 videos on Facebook, and then looking at how the pickup was, the viewing figures for each of those, and how they,
what the
so
data
the
was
metrics,
like, engagement rate,
really,
rate,
really fascinating, and that was a real buzz to me to be, again on the frontier, looking at the cutting edge of how you might market, in the hope that I'll do it again, or I'll learn from that to do other stuff,
in the future. And it kind of ties back into, you were talking previously about, bringing stuff to the region. And was that a passionate thing? Because you mentioned prior to obviously jumping on the podcast about, bringing business to the region. Was that a big part of it?
Well, when I lived in London, where there is quantity of life, and there are challenges to quality of life, because it's so damn expensive, and you can live in a shoebox, and when you go on public transport, you're with everyone else, but the quantity of it all, you can have what you like every day of the week, any hour of the day or night, and so I worried when I was fired and forced, or came back chose to come back to the region, that I was going to be stuck, and it would be kind of provincial and lower excitement and lower adrenaline and lower quantity of things, and but also inherited this property business, and so how are we going to make this property business interesting to work with, and in marketing unique? Where's the unique selling point, so that you can spearhead your brand as a differentiator to other people's? And I thought of that maybe grandly in terms of the city as well.
Right.
That you don't want it to be clone town, because if the city is clone town, then there's no differentiator. And so I was playing with that as a concept, that for personal reasons, I'd like to live in a exciting place where things are, there's an energy, and I was, this property business is relatively slow. You get a client, and like you, thank you very much. You're here for 3 years. That means that room is full for 3 years. We don't have to rent it out. And so, but having moved up here, having never worked here, I was also interested in doing some of that regional discussion, because that would help me network in the region with other business people in a way, because I never really worked here for, I went to Hogwarts boarding school near Peterborough, then I went to university in Manchester and Cardiff. I came to work here when I was 43.
Right.
And so I didn't have any contacts.
No.
So how am I going to get deal flow of people? And back in 2008, it was like going to meetings and helping participate and engage in how might we brand the region.
Right.
And so I did that kind of stuff, and I'm still having a bit of a go at networking around. I might not be the mayor, but are there discussions to be had to bring people together strength of weak ties.
Yeah.
Or you're getting the mindset, getting the jigsaw pieces. I've only got 3 tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get the dream team together.
Yeah.
Make them meet each other. See what that team can do that we can do collectively that you can't do individually.
Yeah.
And start some conversations, because it's more interesting to bring some buzzy, interesting people from different perspectives, and then try and work out where it'll go.
And do you think that's a key thing for entrepreneurs and business owners, is to try and network as much as you can and build relationships, especially in a smaller town or smaller city like Newcastle?
Always be networking is a well-worn phrase of mine. Tell the kids, and I think some of that is you can go and bump into people and still never realize how useful they could be to you.
Yeah.
But I think it is a family, and I have as some of the readers, listeners, viewers will have noticed, a sort of posh accent that you might say is BBC rather than rooted in Geordieland. Yeah. But I am the product of the 3rd generation of people, who are around here. But I still manifest culturally as a Geordie from all of that, those generations of stacking to me. And I've seen it. And once you see it or experience it, so I will talk to anyone. And that is a total theme of the region here, that people will go along, and you're in the bus or you're on the street, and the crack, you can't have no crack.
Yeah, definitely.
You're in the pub and somebody says something to you, you've got to reply with sort of decent response. And you can network, but if you don't connect with people, you never know how useful they could be in business. And so, I've come from this world of shit, I better find connections with people who will help me survive. Yeah. And that maybe in business make some money. Yeah. I've got a business. Can I flog them? Something, can they buy something? Have they got some money to invest? Yeah. And if you never connect with people like that, then you miss out. So I was invited for a corporate event, and at the hotel, the guy, I went for a little walk in the morning. No, I'm not saying them like Uber, get my Strava on, blah, blah. No, it was just, I literally went out to get some fresh air because I hadn't slept well, bit of a hangover, and thinking, but have some fresh air. And the guy who owned the hotel was coming in with some croissants. Yeah. And I started chatting to him. He had a bit of a foreign accent. And I ended up chatting to him. So you could have said he's the bed and breakfast owner who has got some croissants. Yeah. And thank you very much for the croissant. You've got some butter and the jam, and the tea's a bit cold. But I chatted on to him, and I'm like, oh, what do you do? He's like, well, I do this because in lockdown, I met this woman, and we were living in London, and she's in TV, I'm in TV, and he had, we discovered all of this stuff, that he was actually the producer of Schitt's Creek.
Oh, wow.
And he had worked, I'm terrible on media and TV, but my wife has watched Schitt's Creek through 3 times, cried at the end every time. Have you ever seen it?
No, I've not seen it, but
it's like a mega lockdown hit. Yeah. And he had worked with Eugene, I think, who's the main star, for 20 years. Oh, wow. And he had made a fortune. Yeah. And he had loads to get. And he was like, yeah, I'll get your video with Eugene. We can get him to do like a cameo to your wife about how great Schitt's Creek is, blah, blah, blah. And so you can network, you can bump into a bloke and think he does the croissants. Yeah. But you can go deeper and that's fascinating. So it's the people side and bringing people and then going, okay, that plays to me. I mean, could have had the kids on internships on set in America. But I said, oh no, I don't think my wife's into that sort of stuff. So we don't want the cameo of Eugene. And she's like, you what?
Yeah, I
do. Yeah, no, we're not like that.
Yeah.
So, it's how can you help, I mean, another example of that is, so our Holt's Yard, we're doing some succession and training and management. And we've got everybody in the team. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a group with our cleaners.
Yeah.
And we've got a new cleaner, Lisa, who is she's born about 100 metres from here. This is not the best neighbourhood in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's had a tough life. She's going back to part-time cleaning. And the trainer said, say something, get everyone to talk, bit of an icebreaker about sort of quirky things in your life and what people might say about you. And Lisa said, she's probably younger than me. She said, my grandchildren would say of me, she's always on your Kindle. Annie, you're always on the Kindle. And so this is a tough neighbourhood. Education has been tough around here. Opportunity is tough around here. And she says she's on a Kindle, she's which is not stereotypically where you'd think an older woman would be with the tech.
Yeah.
And she says, and I read 2 books a week.
Wow.
And I don't really mind. I said, is it, drama, horror, detective? She said, I don't really care. I've got a £9 monthly subscription. Whatever they give me, I read it. And I always finish it.
Wow.
I don't just give up.
Yeah,
I think I've got to finish it. And I'm like, this is a woman who's come back to get minimum wage or living wage, whatever we're paying, But that's sort of energizing.
Yeah.
That because of our economic challenges as a region, somebody like her who has not had the opportunity to her literacy, her intelligence, and all of those things to go and get a bigger job and and she's, it's like, it's a shame.
Yeah.
And how can you create businesses where you can get someone like that and
Empower
then
them.
train them, empower them, give them roles only in capitalism with expansion and change. So how do you grow a business? How do you grow a city? How do you grow a nation? And everyone can grow. You don't have to be competing if they must decline if we grow. There's some good growth.
Grow together.
And so there's some change the world thoughts from your question was, is it networking? And it's people and connecting with them and getting a way of finding stuff where you can be on a.
It's really interesting. I mean, that is something which even a previous guest that was on the show said something quite similar, that when they started their brand, which is in pretty much every major retailer, so their brand that they'd started pretty much from nothing, they've still used the same businesses that they started the journey with now, and they grew together through that empowerment, through the not the community feel, but just being together and helping each other out, and that's it's massively important, and you can see it with the stuff with the stuff you're doing as well. It's really interesting. Wow. I mean, what a story.
That is aligned self-interest. I want to make money, grow my business. Let's work with the people who rent our offices. And I get calls all the time. Would you like to use our lawyer? Would you like? We're a marketing firm, and I go, why would I ever work with you? To start with, you're going to have to set a really high bar for me to come to Stuart and say, you do podcasts. Well, actually, I'm not going to use your studio. I'm not going to use your people because. And you'll be going, why not? I'm paying you rent. Why should I pay you rent if you're not going to use my podcast studio?
Oh, that's really it's really fascinating. And is that how the relationship with Opencast started, or because I had a bit of time, and I'd done a couple of
times I had this marketing agency where I got fired, but I had made some money in one of the finance rounds. I got sold some shares, and so I had this mindset, idea that I would find founders. I'd find people who are working, who got to like 40, who had worked for other people, that I could help them
empower,
start up. Not people who were 20 who hadn't had experience, but people who had some good experience. They knew kind of how to replicate what they were doing before innovating and changing it, and then and we could get some clients. So I did that with Future Heads, with the recruitment business in London, and helped with the 3 co-founders with me to grow that. And then Mike I met, and we had a lot of industry sector experience that was very similar. Yeah. And I did a load of workshopping with him. We actually walked around Kielder, which is 25 something miles lake, an hour and a half from here, and talked about the concept of starting a business. And it kind of started from there. I could see, real talent and energy and vision in what he was doing, and I was a kind of enabler to that. Yeah. We had some spaces that we could use, and I had some funds to invest, and we both went about sort of building the network for, would you like some IT services? Yeah. And it grew from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not shy of growth. I mean, the rapid growth has been pretty phenomenal.
Well, overnight success, 12 years in the making.
12 years.
No, it's been, we got to we were, before the pandemic, we were about 80 people, and it's sort of, this is an oversimplification of what happened, because there have been many people contributing, and probably too many to name here, and it would be great to name them, but I'm sure one day when I write the book, there'll be that section of with thanks to
all of them.
And it's been a great team, and we were working in the HMRC ecosystem. Right. Again, I had been networking with other people in the region growing tech businesses, because I thought maybe they could buy some of our tech talent, and we could partner with them. And we got in with Accenture, which is a global tech consultancy. Yeah. They were working with HMRC, the tax and revenues office that has a big digital centre in Newcastle. And we were a small partner of theirs. And then we started getting good traction, and our people were essentially local, and the civil servants in HMRC were by and large local, and there was good chemistry there, and the work that we were doing was good and good value. And then in the pandemic, big teams had to be formed quickly. Yeah. And our guys were involved in that team, and we built at scale, at pace, with a very scary, challenging time. We had the trust to be on the team, to grow some big chunks of that, and that has been a good case study of how we've worked with government. And then since then, we grew from 100 people to 200 people in the following year, to 400 people, and then last year to 450. When we hope to get to like 500, 600 this year. Wow. So that has been a scaling up journey, and there are many factors in that. And I've been the sort of exec chair of that business. Again, back to start of this, learning to not be like, no, I must do that, but how do I help facilitate that? And it's a journey. We're still learning, but I hired a guy who became the chief executive, Tom. Then we've hired Harry, who's our sales director. Then Kate, who's our chief people officer. And then Lee, who's our chief technical officer. And it was my mindset back then from the slightly unfinished business with the Lowy Group, which was, what would the private equity do, is one of my mantras. And that firstly, get really good management in and be over-investing in the management capabilities of the team, who are all have been in bigger businesses and in bigger roles, but stepping up to being the C-suite of all of those. And they have worked collectively really, really well. Brilliant. And then we've invested in a load of the tech to run a good business. So we use Workday, which is a sort of time, billing, HR system that you can understand all the finance side. So we've got a lot of data, and that is we were one of the rare investments for Workday at that scale. But it will allow us to run to Accenture size, hundreds of thousands of people, when we're still only 400. But it was a tech decision to buy once. Expensive now, but worth it as we scale.
Long run.
So
fascinating.
So we've got great people in management. We've got great platform tech, or at least industrial strength platform and tech. And then we've worked really hard on the culture to attract and retain a diverse range of talent. Key being to keep those people. And along the way, another of my mantras was good teamwork. And that's good as in purpose-driven, purpose before profit. And then team, the culture, how we work together, and the work being challenging, stretching, nationally significant, major league work. And you can do a Venn diagram of good and team and work. Good work, teamwork, good team. And that's so it's like, that's, I suppose, the sort of leadership piece for me has been to sort of help mind open the company, so that there's a sense of mission, and the management team, and to be from the top saying, no, we don't need to rinse this for profits. We're wanting to grow this, so we want to build it on solid foundations, so that next year it'll be easier, and the year after that it'll be easier, even if we're investing now. And that's been fascinating. And I think the real excitement for me has been that the people side of the business, the culture side, has really blossomed, and it's been grassroots. Everybody has contributed to that, rather than it being. So it's been bottom up, people up, rather than management down, saying we must do this, we must do that. We've and we've grown through. We learned a lot about hybrid working post pandemic, and we have 250 people in the northeast, and then 250 people scattered across the UK.
Wow. And it's an absolutely fascinating story. I could sit and talk to you for hours. Obviously, we've talked for a while now, and a lot of it comes back to connecting, empowerment, relationships, building a team, learning. There's a lot of amazing things that people can take away from this, and I think you talking about that it's brilliant, and I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing some of that wisdom in your story, because I think it's a great story to share. Just for the listeners and the viewers, where can they find you if they wanted to reach out and connect with you? Well, I'm on the easiest place is LinkedIn. Because my surname is Hoult. And there's only one other Charles Hoult. Right. Okay.
So it's amazing that in the massive world, there's only two of us. So there's a Charles and a Charlie. And I'm pretty much always on LinkedIn, and people do ping me all the time. And they say, let's jump on a call next week, and I go, there's absolutely no way, because I keep my diary quite busy. But I actually do chat to people if they if they've got a question, rather than this kind of bitey close.
Yeah, like a want straight away off
Yeah,
the bat.
it's
You
like,
to have a convo.
here's a thought.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend time on a 2 o'clock on a Wednesday doing stuff. But at any time, if somebody's got a query,
You'll be on there.
yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's been great.
Really enjoyed talking to you. I'm sure we'll talk further. And, if the podcast keeps going and growing, probably come
Episode
back
2.
On. Yeah. So.
With Chaz.
But yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Charlie. And
cheers, thank
take
you.
care. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.